Everyone, welcome to the Future Proofing Your Nonprofit virtual panel series. We're on part 2, session 2, which is about the power of we. Last week we did Unlocking Your Digital Potential, which is now on replay. So if you're watching this on replay, you're already on the page where you can just click on session 1 and watch that. If not, you can now move on to session 2, where we're going to talk about the power of we. And a couple of housekeeping things that we want to go over as well is, of course, this is being recorded for those that are live, so you'll get access to that. What we're planning on doing here to make it even easier for you to take action as a nonprofit, and for our small business partners and professionals that are also watching this, is we're converting this conversation into kind of like an action checklist, which will allow you to actually take action on the things that we're talking about, determine what you're missing, determining what you may have. So it makes it a lot easier for you to make those strides. So this is a topic I know that is very, very dear to me. And based on my conversation with Matthew, Chris, and Sean, it seems like it is extremely important and valuable to them as well. So I'm going to pull this down here, and I'm excited to just get this conversation started. So let me stop sharing. And gentlemen, again, thank you for being a part of this panel series. The value that we're going to bring to not only nonprofit organizations, but small businesses and the other organizations that support the nonprofit community. Since we're talking about the power of we cultivating strategic alliances for shared value, my first question to the entire panel is, how do you define partnerships? And so who wants to go first?
I'll go first. That way I have the easy one. I don't have to keep saying just like Sean said or just like Matthew said. I'll take the easy route. So to me, a partnership is a agreed upon path based on shared values that is aimed at the benefit of a third party. So your customers, your donors, coming together to make sure there's value in that in an agreed upon way that is mutually beneficial to you and your shared audience. So
Okay.
That's my quick definition of a partnership.
Beautiful. Who wants to go next?
So I'll take that one. So I read the Go Giver last week, and a partnership there. So there's two sides. So there's the win-win, which is definitely not a partnership because not everyone wins and someone's losing, and it's not necessarily the best setup for either side. Or compromise is also not such a great setup. So going with what Chris was saying, it's more of what I've done in the past with partnerships is where you've got, say, a developer or creative or whatever it is that you're doing a partnership with. They're making their money, they're doing the things that they like to do, you're getting the help that you need, and at a price that works with your budget, and everything just works out. And at the end of the day, the things that were contracted for and needed get done on time, the right time, and it just works.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go along a little bit along the lines of what Matthew said, a combination of what Matthew said and what Chris said, but also just the fact that two people are in an arrangement who want to help each other grow, meaning you see the benefits of each other and how you want to, build that relationship and take that relationship to another level to ultimately benefit each other, because monetary wise, you're both winning at some level, but ultimately enhancing that relationship so that way whatever you're doing is going to grow and scale.
Okay. And now that we kind of have an understanding of where everyone stands here, for me, strategic partnerships, I always talk about the triple win. And the triple win is from the standpoint of the person initiating the partnership. So whether you are the nonprofit trying to initiate the partnership, or from my perspective, the business owner who's trying to initiate a partnership, whether that's with a nonprofit or even with another organization, the triple win is in the exact order of the first win has to be delivered for the end user, for the person that we are all invested in. The second win is for that partner that you approach. And then if those first two are met, the third win should automatically be you. So you're taking yourself out of the equation of me. I need to, I understand I have a need. I understand there are things that have to happen, but how much can I learn from this potential partner before I even go into the initial outreach stage to have that conversation, so you're already starting off on the right note. So when it comes to, for everyone here, when it comes to strategic partnerships, what are some key things that you look for in regards to what are the things that you're looking for to start to even reach out to someone about a strategic partnership?
So, I'll jump into that one. I do this a lot with my company, is I look for people who are in the same space, who are looking for a solution to a problem that they have, and we provide that solution. So, like, for example, I sell software to nonprofits, and I work with a lot of different nonprofit back office companies, nonprofit consultants, nonprofit, people who are also helping organizations, and they know part of their job is to advise them on the right tools to use. And we sit down, we talk and say, hey, listen, maybe our thing could be ideal. Let's work on a partnership where you and I can work together, create content, bring people in, and then you can recommend us to your people. And they love it because it makes their lives easier. They're making money, I'm making money, and we're also giving over educational content to people to push them in a direction where either they're using our product or they can use something else, but they come out of it learning something in the end. So I like to look for people who we can create good content together and also create monetary value together.
Okay. Chris or Matthew, you want to answer? You want to jump in there?
So, yeah, in much the same way, I look for overlap in audience, but complementary in services. So a nonprofit that does X and a for-profit that does Y, they have overlap in who they serve, but they're not doing the same thing, right? There's not a conflict there. So that's kind of, those are sort of the two elements. Does a partnership make sense from a outside world perspective? If someone looked at it from the outside and said, okay, it makes sense that these two would align with one another. And ultimately, do we have enough audience overlap that it's going to feel natural? Now, if it's the exact same audiences, I'm not sure there's any real value in it, but you just want a little bit of overlap between the two so it feels more natural, and it is more natural for your teams and for your audiences, as you talked about.
Mm-hmm. I see. Matthew, you want to say something before I kind of comment on what I'm hearing here?
Yeah, so I would say partnership has to be authentic. It has to come from the space of, what are you doing for the relationship? What are you doing for the overall here and now and the future end goal? And those, to me, appear to be the ones that last the longest, versus the ones where if someone's proposing a partnership solely based on, I need a certain number of eyeballs, or I need somebody to wear product or to post something on Instagram, whatever it is, the authenticity there is a lot lower. There's some other ulterior motive. Somebody's doing something for someone, and it just doesn't always come across as the same way. On the utility side of marketing, if someone's doing something because they love a product and a brand approaches that particular athlete or whoever it is, hey, we see you using your product. We would love to enhance your usage of it. How can we do more? Comes across better for the end users, for other athletes, as opposed to a brand approaching a big name athlete and the athlete's just literally hashtagging it just because they've got a huge audience and they're going to make a lot of money just for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have a bunch of stuff to say on that, what you were just saying, because that I can't stand. where with the whole influencer marketing partnerships type of thing, where there's no authenticity, and just because I was literally talking about this with somebody the other day on how people are just people are paying for this kind of stuff. People are paying for people's followers. People are paying to do. I was having this. It was actually a great conversation with a friend of mine. He's a very well known personality in the Jewish world, and somebody wanted to paid him a bunch of money to run an ad for their SEO company on his YouTube channel, and he said, "I don't want to do this for you because it's not going to work, because I'm a musician, I'm a public figure, and it's like apples and oranges." And he's like, no, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be awesome. And he's like, okay, whatever, you're paying me, but like, I'm just telling you now, it's not going to work. And people do this all the time, and they think that, oh, nonprofits do this all the time. I've seen so many posts in different marketing groups. Hi, I'm looking for an influencer to partner with for my organization. I'm just like, no, stop, don't, please, good God, don't do that. And because if you're not bought into the mission, if you're not bought into what's going on, you're going to sit out there with your phone out, hawking it. People are going to see right through you and be like, that was stupid. You just paid the tens of thousands of dollars you just paid to this schmuck. You could have saved like a million whales. And people don't realize that. And the authenticity in the partnership, the authenticity in the connections, the authenticity in like really being aligned is the key to making a successful partnership. Whether it's marketing, whether it's branding, whether it's monetary, whether it's whatever you're doing within the organization and the business, because people have to be on like aligned with one another's mission, values, and goals.
And so that there, and I want to touch on what Chris said. For not only for the nonprofit, because nonprofits typically to some degree have their vision, their mission, their values, because it kind of comes with the territory. It's the relationships with everyone else that may not have those things in place. And for my small business people out there and my influencers out there, it's important that you have set your vision, your mission, the values, how you operate, what you will and will not tolerate. So it's very clear, because that becomes a key component to alignment. And that brings me to Chris's comment about audience alignment. To me, and I'll ask this to everyone else, the number one thing that I focus on the most is alignment, followed by purpose, vision, and mission, because it doesn't matter what your purpose, mission, or vision is if you're not even talking to the right audience, like you're saying. So I get exactly what you're saying there, Sean, because, people are excited to try to reach out to some massive celebrity or somebody just because they want the eyeballs, but then that still will result to zero financial opportunity, So Chris, I'm gonna tap back into you real quick. Let's talk a little bit about audience alignment, because you said sometimes the audience don't have to necessarily be 100% in alignment. There can be some overlap. There's a side to two. I see opportunities in both.
Yeah, I don't see, and I'm not disagreeing with you, so I would love to learn. I don't see as much opportunity when there is 100% alignment. When who you serve and who I serve are exactly the same person, I'm not broadening my audience, so there's no win-win for the two people. Now the customer may win, right? The donor may win, and that's great, but that's one of the three that you mentioned.
Yep.
Right, and so when there's 100% alignment, I struggle to find the value in the other two. It's when there's some level of over-alignment, especially in what they might call personas, or your characteristics of who it is you serve. My donor base and your customer base may not be the same person, but they're the same type of person.
Sure.
And so they have that same persona. And so that alignment really does work. And certainly from alignment of values and what we believe in as an organization, what you believe in as a nonprofit, I mean, as a for-profit, have to also have some level of awareness. So it makes sense. It doesn't create this cognitive dissonance when you hear the two together. It has to make sense. And it's important to, as you're having these conversations, to realize that your alignment is with the company or the nonprofit, not the person you're talking to. So you may align beautifully with that person, right? But they may not align beautifully with their own organizations or their company's values. I have worked with groups where I don't have a full alignment, right? And so I may go be the right person for you, but my company isn't. And so just keeping in mind that what you're aligning with is that brand on either side. It isn't the person sitting across from you. If that person sitting across from you either does align or doesn't align, isn't as relevant as how the world perceives and what the real values are of that organization that you're aligning.
Sure, absolutely.
Well,
Anybody want to add to that?
Well, I wanted to jump back in on the whole influencer partnership type of thing because like I said, I've been seeing this a lot with nonprofits where influencers are a big buzzword, and everyone's like, it's like AI. You know, there's a bunch of different buzzwords. And influencer is one of them. I just want to stick my finger down my throat and go to the bathroom. But you know, that's in the cringe factor. But the point being is that like when nonprofits are looking for these influencer partnerships, we really have to make sure these people are with, because these guys will just want to take your money, and if they're not fully bought into your mission and their brand, then it's just going to be such a waste of time. And the same thing with partnerships in general is that like we're saying, you really have to. Someone has to really be bought into the mission. And I say this in business partnerships too. Is I have this rule now after getting burned before that I don't do partners like people unless you're actually bringing something to the table. And plenty of times I see people get into business relationships or like with organizations, and they're like, oh, we're going to be partners and blah blah blah, and it's just like, well, what are you bringing to the table? And I say this to people all the time when they're talking about investors or partners or major givers. It's like, why do you need this? Like, why do you want this person? Why do you want this partner? Why do you want, like, what are they bringing to the table? And if they don't align with you and you're going to be doing all the work and they're going to be taking all the money, that, what's the point? And I actually had this conversation with our mutual friend, Patrick Henshaw, the super cool VC guy out in Kentucky. And he said, VC money, it's just like a major gift and these guys own you. So like, if you don't need it, then why take it? Same thing with the business partnership. If you don't need somebody and they're not going to bring anything to the table, like, why do you need it? So be careful, be aligned, and make sure everybody's on the same page. And again, back to the influencer thing, make sure these people are on the same page with you.
Yeah, basically you need to set expectations, for this just to happen. So this will allow me to kind of go towards Matthew, your thing. You talked about in regards to the power of dropping egos and focusing on the customers. So my question to you is, how can a business and a nonprofit align their separate goals to create a unified focus that benefits the community they both serve? This is for Matt.
So I think it goes back to, the subject matter experts, the people that the not-for-profits bringing in, be it the developers or website people or mail people, whatever it is. They do the things that they do really well. And the non-for-profits, they do stick with the non-for-profit side. And in terms of the execution, everybody does the things that is in their wheelhouse, and they don't stick their nose into things that is not. Like, I am not a graphics person. I'm dangerous with Photoshop. I can do it, but I'm not the best. Like, someone else can run circles around me. So I'm going to tend to stay out of that and say to the developer or graphics person, here's what I need. I need images. Here's the size. Here's the specifications from whatever ad engine. But I need you to create it for me. I can't do it as well as you can. Just get it done. And I think that's where that no ego, get out of the way type of mentality is, that everybody's got their superpower. Use your superpower and leave everyone else's superpower alone. And then everyone's happier and things just move faster.
Okay. Chris or Sean, do you want to add anything to that?
I'm the same way. If I don't know how to do something, I'll find someone who's going to do it because it makes my life easier, and it's also a part of the relationship. I'm not going to waste my time with something I don't know how to do.
Sure. Well, here's how I might look at that is when we talk about aligning our goals. I think in what we would call maybe a discovery call. I don't know what your opening strategy is when it comes to strategic partnerships. For me, it is a discovery call. The discovery call is not, we don't talk about the actual plan. We don't talk about the future. We talk about what it's kind of a discovery of each other. It's a discovery of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. And if you are lucky enough, or if you've done your homework, you might have a little bit of that insight on that partner in advance, so you can steer that conversation or make sure that you're bringing up the things that are the most important in that conversation, including, what are you trying to achieve in the next 12 months? What are your upcoming projects? What do you have going on that you feel that you could use some support in? So these as simple as that, but I think a lot of people, again, they go into it thinking, all right, I got 30 minutes to tell them everything about me that is relevant to what I want, versus here's some information about where we're trying to go. Tell me about what you're trying to do, and let's see if there is alignment. I definitely do that a lot when people go, hey, we want to partner with you. I'm like, before we even talk about partnerships, let's figure out what it is you do. Let's figure out where you're trying to go. And my thing is always, does it align with my purpose, vision, and mission? Because you best believe I have one.
Well said. I mean, that's straight up the truth, and I'm the same way. Like, if people come to me also, and they're like, I'd love to do something with you. It's like, okay, so again, what are you bringing to the table, and how are we aligned? And if we're both on the same page, let's see what we can do and make it work. And I feel like a lot of people don't think, like, because people aren't so grounded in their mission and what they're doing. I mean, even though they say they're grounded in their mission, they're grounded in their statements and what they do, I see this all the time. People are still all over the place, and they don't know how, they couldn't sell themselves out of a hole if they had to. And so I feel like this is something people need to take a step back on before they get approached by people for sponsorships or partnerships or other things like that, and really understand who they are, what they're all about, and make sure that they are solidified and grounded in that mission statement. Because I'm totally with you. Like, who are you and what you bring to the table?
Okay. Chris?
I think with that, especially from the nonprofit side, most nonprofits, as you mentioned earlier, Jimmy, they have that mission statement, they have that vision, just sort of in that natural process. Like, you have to submit a mission statement whenever you submit your paperwork to be a 501c3, right? So it has to be there. But what does that actually mean? And when rubber hits the road, when you start translating the mission statement into actions, that's where it gets a little bit more nebulous. And that's also where you'll see mission creep from a nonprofit standpoint. So you'll see them start to chase those dollars because they aren't grounded in what does that mission lived look like day to day. And when they already know that, it's really easy to see where you have the needs that a partner can fill, and where you have the value you can bring to a partnership. And be able to find it that way, I think, is probably the most effective way from the nonprofit side of finding that partner that is actually going to complement what it is you do and how you do it, so that ultimately your mission, with how you're trying to change the world, is improved, and so is their mission and what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Matthew, any thoughts?
No, I mean, I think that covered it well.
Okay. So then let's talk a little bit about, and I'm going to start with you, Chris, here. You noted that fundraising is not the only benefit of partnerships. So let's get into what are the other benefits of a strategic partnership that makes it worth having a strategic partnership.
Yeah, there are almost as many as the grains of sand on the beach. I mean, really and truly, a strategic partnership serves as this foundation for how and where you can grow in your community. It works at any scale, right? All I have to do is look at Starbucks and their relationship with sustainability, rainforest sustainability, and how that applied for, like, I don't know, whether 15 years with that, right? And that's a national, or if not, it's an international chain, right? So it can work on a global scale, but where we can see the greatest impact the quickest is actually on that local community level. And so the advantages you see are things like, well, one, exposing your brand to a different audience that has aligned values and mission. You can see the positive influence of somebody's lent credibility in that mission, right? So they may have seen your ad on Facebook 27 times, but didn't care about it until it was associated with a brand they already use, care, and respect. So that shared credibility can get you in the door on both sides of that fence as well. And then, of course, fundraising is huge. We all want additional funds, but more often than not, that's a longer term view. That is, you're building awareness, you're building understanding and connection, so that when the time is right, you can build those funds into it. But having that partnership allows you this enormous turbo boost up the process of cultivating your donor and your would-be donor, because you start with this lent credibility of who your partner is and their audience. And without a doubt, the sum of those two parts are far exceed their individual values. Because when they come together, that brand, when done right, just is magnitude greater than what it would be individually.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to pack there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so Chris, so it's not about golf or going to the baseball games or stuff like that.
It can be, right? That can be a really cool thing to do, but that should not be the purpose of it. No, it should not be.
No.
I want to partner with my local AAA baseball team so I can get my youth group free tickets. That's not a partnership. That's an ask. It's a great ask. I'm all for it, but don't call it a partnership.
Yeah, because I think there's a big misnomer in the public out there where people think, oh yeah, partnership is a business gives away something to non-for-profits, and the non-for-profit's like, yeah, this is a great partnership, but that's probably not necessarily always the best.
You use that language. You're absolutely right, Matthew. We'll use, well, we've been partners with them for years, and I worked for the Salvation Army for a long time, and you would see that with at Christmas time, we would give families turkeys, and the local Purdue farm would give us turkeys. And we said, we've had this great partnership with Purdue. No, it wasn't a partnership. They were a donor. They were a significant donor. They were a substantial donor, but there was no win-win in it. I mean, they rarely even made it into the press release, to be honest with you. It was
They made goodwill.
donation.
Yeah, I mean, it was a donation of goodwill. They got the name out there, and then minds of all the people who received the turkeys is, it's kind of like they go to the grocery store, and if there's two different turkeys that are available, what are they going to buy? It's going to be Purdue.
Well, you said something interesting, Chris, about how, like, you know, it's the way people use the language. Oh, we've been partners with them for years, blah blah blah. But it's not really a partnership. And you said they're giving you the turkeys, but from a marketing perspective, you know, to say the language of how you present it. Oh, there are partners. There are, we work with them, and you have their logo on your site and blah blah blah. But like the intricacies of what the partnership really is and relationship is, no one knows that they're just giving you a box load of turkeys. So on the one hand, it does help, because it helps boost your social proof, boost your credibility. I mean, I do this all the time with people. I do this myself too. And it boosts your credibility. And people don't know the direct relationship of it, but you know, it's not the most conventional partnership, but it does help in some way.
Yeah, and
yeah, I think that's a good distinction, Sean, to separate common language from behind the scenes. What's really
correct? Well, yeah, because no one cares what happens behind the scenes. They just want to see. They see that you gave out that these guys donated like 1,000 turkeys, and they're like, "Oh, it's our partner. This year we partnered with Purdue, and they gave us and together we gave out 1,000 turkeys." Versus, "Hey, Purdue gave us a box load of 1,000 turkeys. Here you go."
All right. So this kind of gets me into the next question, in regards to what makes a good partnership versus what are red flags. You know, and you know, one, I'd say a red flag is the misunderstanding and misuse of the word partnership. What else could be either red flags or great signals for a great partnership? So our nonprofits specifically can really make sure they have their antennas up.
If they are not asking you what you're bringing to the table, it's not a partnership. And the nonprofit side, it's really easy to go into it because you spend so much of your time making asks for those donations, to start with the same mindset as you do with a donation conversation. A partnership conversation is vastly different, and it can be very hard on the nonprofit side to switch your mindset of, I have to first look at how it's going to help them, and where and how do we align. So switching your mindset. So if their question isn't, what is it you're bringing to the table, especially if you haven't answered that yet, then you may be using the common terminology of partnership, but it isn't a partnership, it's an ask. And those are great. I'm all for them. I'm a fundraiser, but it's not a real partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think of kind of like a elementary school boys basketball game. So if a boy has a ball and there's 5 other boys and they want to play and they say, can we have your ball? That's not a partnership. That's gentle bullying, borrowing your ball. But if they say, hey, we'd like you to play and can you bring your ball so we can all play together? That's a partnership.
Nice analogy.
It's different setup. Yes, correct. And I think the same thing goes in the big world where nonprofit says to a big company, hey, we need turkeys for families. It's nice. It's a partnership. It's very loosely phrased. But if a not-for-profit works with a big agro producer and says, right, now let's make a real partnership. Let's make sure that the amount that you're giving, you get back far exceeds what you gave. And on the not-for-profit side, it's the same thing. Now you've got something which is more of partnership, where it's more relationship. It's a higher level, and there's something there for the long term. It's not just transactional for one time a year. This is every month for the whole year, every year.
Gotcha. And you kind of
Makes sense.
And this let's continue on that path, Matthew, because you're about that long-term vision. I know you talk a lot about events and turning them into not necessarily annual things, but recurring themes. So you're building that partnership, because it's important for us to start to really distinguish between an ask, a kind of a partnership, and a true partnership where there's activity on both sides of the fence.
Correct.
So why don't you go a little bit deeper into your thoughts around, really building more of a long-term plan with an organization, a partner, versus it being one time and then you just leave the opportunity on the table where there could have been more.
Right. No, for sure. So in the for-profit space, I've worked with a number of different companies where, for example, now this is September. A lot of companies are scrambling, thinking, what are we going to do for Thanksgiving and Black Friday and all this stuff? But the really smart companies did that last year in December, planning for the following November. And they've got this 12-month ahead of time planning where they get stuff done, they get things aligned, they've got their partners already lined up for that following year. But it's not just once a season, it's every quarter they've got stuff going on. Every quarter they've got plans to make stuff happen. So, for example, if you're planning for July 2026 and doing some type of beach promotion, whatever, the time to plan is now, because by the time the springtime comes around, everything is either booked up or taken, or stuff happens and you're not going to be able to do whatever you want to do. But if you start putting the stuff on paper now, you're putting ink down and saying, we want to create a beach promotion between X, Y, and Z non-for-profit and 1, 2, 3 big company, and we want to get in front of this type of audience, and this is what we're going to do, and here's the goals. Now you've got something going on, and you can do the same for each type of holiday season, event, whatever it is, and you just structure and you plan it ahead of time. So it's not this quick rush, like, oh no, we got to do something because some event's happening in a month's time. Like, well, that's too late. You can't get things out in time, especially with the news cycle and SEO and AI and all that stuff. Like even LinkedIn, we had a discussion before this where the observation was that if you put something on LinkedIn, it's going to take a week, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks before people start seeing it, because just the way the algorithms keeps changing. And I think the same thing's the real world, where you just have to get stuff planned and squared away and running way in advance before an event. Even though everything's not digital, you still need to get that all done.
Okay.
And I think from a long-term standpoint, it's important to set those expectations on the front end, right? We want this to be a multi-year relationship, and here's what it's going to take for that to be a reality, right? So if we don't meet the milestones, we definitely need to come back and look, and then have your follow-up meetings and everything goes along with that. But setting that expectation on the front end that the goal is a long-term, multi-year, events sort of relationship on the front end will help, I think, tremendously with those expectations and those milestones when we hit them.
Okay.
No, I'm totally in agreement with you guys. It really, you just have to make sure you're all on the same page.
Okay. So here's a big question for you. Are you ready? Drum roll.
Boy.
Don't have a drummer. So scratch that. How do you measure success of a great partnership? What are their KPIs? Are there just, is it a feeling? I got a feeling, something. What is the definition of success in a strategic partnership to each one of you?
Yeah, but feelings are not facts, Jimmy. Like,
Oh,
you
God.
can't measure a feeling.
I know.
Like,
That's why
you can say you're feeling a 10 today, but like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
So with like a partnership or anything, there has to be a KPI where I can go in and pull the oil dipstick out and be like, all right, well, you're a 10 out of 10 for the amount of oil in your engine there. Like, I need something to work with. I think that comes down to like building a model, building metrics, figuring out like, well, this partnership we anticipate to do what? How many people are going to see whatever it is? Out of that, what's going to happen? Come out with some type of model where like Purdue's giving away turkeys. Okay, how many turkeys are they giving away? What's the halo effect of that? If each family speaks about the turkeys for 2 other families, now instead of 100 families receiving turkeys, now you've got, call it 2x, so it's 200 additional families know about this. So it's 300 families total who are aware of Purdue and what the good things that they do. Now you've got a model. Now you've got some metrics to work with. And Purdue comes back and says, right, we want to do 5x. Okay, great. How do we achieve that 5x? What do we have to do to get there?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it'd be hard-pressed to say what is success for a partnership. But I know that in the partnership conversation, you've got to clearly define what success is and how you're going to measure it. Right? So if it's PR, great. If it is donations, great. If it is exposure, great. If it's completion, whatever it is, you have to have it clearly lined. What does success look like, and how are you going to measure that success? So just saying I want to raise $1,000 doesn't help you if I go out to a donor who's giving me $1,000 every single year and he gave me $1,000 for this event. I'm not up anything, right? I've got to have what is my measurement? What I actually really want? What does that look like? If I want to have 1,000 impressions and that's what I would have anyway, then it isn't a success. It's just moving it from pocket A to pocket B. And so having a clear understanding of what success is and how it's measured on both sides of it, and that there is clear, to go back to your words, Jimmy, it's the win-win-win. The first is the audience, right? That end user, whether it be the donor or the client, what's their win? How do I measure that? What does that look like? What is your win, partner? How do we measure that? What does it look like? What is my win? How do we measure that? What do we look like? And along the way, what are the milestones we're looking to make sure we're getting there? So that we don't reach the end and go, holy crap, we failed. We should have had milestones along the way to say we're missing somewhere, right? So it's not just the end target of $1,000. It's by end of October, I should have $250. By the end of November, I should have $500. And in December, I'll catch the last 500, right? Whatever those milestones are, set them so that you can adjust expectations and, of course, as you kind of move through the process. But they have to be very clearly aligned at the front end and relevant to what you're actually achieving in the purpose of that partnership.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean to jump in here, I mean I'm kind of in kind of a hybrid between Matthew's answer and Chris's answer, because Matthew's coming from the marketing side of measuring what the successes are, building out a plan for success, and Chris is kind of coming from the the strategic side of it, and I think that once you start by understanding and being aligned with who you guys are and what your goals are, your shared commonalities, then you can create and why you guys are doing in this relationship to begin with. then you can create the goals and create the KPIs and create the expectations and the strategy behind it to really take it to the next level. And like I said, I do this all the time with people in my space because I see there's so many different people that I like to collaborate with who bring value, and not just that you're going to bring me money, but they just bring genuine value to the content that we're creating. Like what we're doing right now, we all bring something to the table, and we're not just sitting here for an hour of our time schmoozing. We all bring something to the table. We see the value behind what we're doing, and we're creating content that's going to, whether the ROI kicks in of our time versus what we're doing right now, whether it kicks in immediately or over time, where people see this. But that's part of the whole collaboration, the success. And you have to also go into the mindset, depending on what you're doing, is that you're not going to make $1 million overnight from what you're doing, but it's a long-term strategy, short-term loss, long-term gain type of thing. And then the success comes over whatever amount of time, however long you build a relationship.
Sure.
So, Jimmy, can I steal your job for a minute?
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask the question because I'm genuinely curious what the three of you think. When you look at the mechanics of getting started, I'm the nonprofit.
Yep.
I'm the small business. You pick one. I want a partnership to achieve X, right? To expose my brand to a new aligned audience. What's my first step? How do I start with that? What do I research? What do I Google to find out? How do I get started on finding the right partner, much less who to go talk to when I find that right partner? What's my first step?
All right. I would like to jump in there and start this because this is fun. For me, there are signals all around us that let us know, what's going on, and someone is raising their hand without raising their hand saying they want to partner with you. What does that look like? One way is through advertising. I'll literally be watching TV and a commercial will come on and I'll know they're talking to my audience. And if you've done advertising, one thing the advertisers used to do back in the day with newspapers and whatnot is they would go after other people who were advertising. Why were they doing that? For two reasons. One, the person was spending money, so they were already in that mindset. And two, they're lead genning, which means that they're looking for opportunities to generate more leads. And so they already check off two huge boxes when it comes to, why are we doing partnerships? Partnerships expose us, our brand, for us to get in front of more people that we think are relevant to us. So one way is to look and see who's advertising, whether you're turning the television, whether you're surfing through the internet, and you go, wow, that they're promoting to my audience. I like their product. Let me learn more about them. And you don't contact them directly. Now you need to do some research. Now I'm a marketer myself at heart, so I will leverage tools to understand, what they're doing. I'll look at tools and see if they put out press releases, because press releases will tell you a lot about what their immediate objectives are, or whether they made a new hire, whether they have a new product coming out, whether they have a new event. And then you have to determine based on that, even whether they've raised money. I've actually targeted people. I know that sounds horrible, but I targeted people based on the fact that, a company that I've actually done work with, they had received $50 million to build out some educational stuff for small businesses. I create content for small businesses. So I was able to start to align that and go, how can I help them achieve that? Because they've already allocated that money to that. So the question becomes, do you have enough resources, or can I help provide them from my perspective? Because I am also an expert that can help you achieve that very specific goal. So the key for me is really just doing some research, doing homework, seeing who's out there, see who's trying to bring in new business, and go, if they're already putting those resources in and you can help them on that journey, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, but going with what Jimmy's saying, like that's the external side. I would even do the internal side more. Like Simon Sinek's why, like who are you? What are you about? who are your people, who do you want to get in front of, why pay attention to you, all that stuff, the foundational stuff that should be done before you bring in a partner. That way, when you start going down the path of here's who we are, here's our mission, here's the type of people we serve, who are similar companies or partners or whatever that can help us connect to either our audience or achieve our mission or whatever it is, or fill a strategic gap with skill sets or whatever the issue that they're trying to solve with the partnership is. And that way that the internal stuff is done. And then there's alignment between, we have a need here. We either need an external big company to help donate or spread the word, or we need to find somebody who's a service provider to help us internally, whatever pain point we have. They've got that work done, and then now that they're finding the right person to do that for them. And they're not just shooting in the dark, like, oh yeah, let's find an influencer who's just going to hashtag us. That's great,
That's not good.
not going to pay the bills. Yeah.
Just had to hit that third rail again, didn't you, Matthew? Okay.
Got to keep doing it. I mean, it's like hot ice cream. Like, no one really wants it.
Hot ice cream.
You can hashtag hot ice cream all you want, but it's not going to, no one's going to sign up.
Oh, that's funny.
No, exactly. Oh gosh.
Well, we're getting close to the end. So another great conversation. I don't see any questions coming in, but if there are any questions for anyone watching, please drop them in the chat. We'd love to, gear something directly towards you. So while we wait to see if we get a question or two in, let's go ahead and start to wrap this up a bit. So again, we're talking about the power of partnerships, the power of we. Are there any key things that again, let's go back to a nonprofit, because a nonprofit, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, they have a little bit, they don't have as much flexibility when it comes to strategic partnerships like a nonprofit. Like as a small business, we can make all kind of deals. I'm assuming there are some restrictions to how a nonprofit can do strategic partnerships. Or is anyone here aware of any?
The only restriction that's out there really that's unique to nonprofit world is that it can't be tied to lobbying.
Okay.
Other than that, you're pretty much fair game. It is your strategic partnership to build your budget, to build your view, whatever that is. It doesn't matter. It's available to you as long as you're not lobbying. That's what will get you in trouble. It has to align with your mission, but a small business wouldn't be, it isn't legally required, but it would be natural to lend towards that anyway.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sean. You were going to add something to that?
I was, and then my brain is drawing a blank. I apologize. It's like late on my end of the world.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're Sean at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, is in Israel, so he's definitely far from us. We're all East Coast here. Well, yeah, actually, Chris, you're East Coast too right now. Here's one topic I didn't broach on. I just realized I wanted to quickly throw in real quick: community.
Wonderful.
Because community is to one degree, it can be a piece of the puzzle for attracting, but then if you own the community, people are attracted to you, and sometimes they're attracted to you for the wrong reasons because of course they want to tap into that. We kind of touched on that a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about where does community fit into strategic partnerships?
I'm going to talk about. I love community. Community building is a huge thing for nonprofits, and they don't realize this, both offline and online. And if you're not creating, I was just talking about this on my podcast last week, where we're talking about creating fans, building a fan base, and building the community around people, because you want the goal is you tell them to jump, they say how high. You tell them to give, they say how much. You tell them to show up, they say where. And nonprofits miss the boat on this because they just take for granted the fact that people are interested in their organization, but they're not laying the roots of building the community. And I mean, I know this, and Matthew, you know this. Us Jews, we're all into community, and you guys are also probably. But like, really, in our world, in the Jewish world, everything's all about community. Like someone has a baby, like 10 families show up with casserole. or they show up with dinner for you for the week. You're in hospital, everybody's making you food, everyone's taking care of your kids, making sure someone's it's like it's the nucleus of everything. And in the nonprofit world, people screw this up a lot because they look at their people as donors, they look at them as money, they don't look at them as fans, they don't look at them as partners. And that's a partnership. As a community, communities are the ultimate partnership, because you're doing something unconditionally for somebody, but you're at the same time you're gaining, you're benefiting, and you want to help them in the same time. A community is the greatest partnership, and if you screw it up, then you end up with nothing, and you're just like, how come nobody wants to watch my videos or show up to my events and blah blah blah. It's like, because you didn't nurture them, you didn't talk to them, you didn't build this up, and you burned the bridges.
Wow. Anybody want to add to that?
Well, a little bit. Community is where accountability meets objectives. And so when you're in community with integrity, you have accountability for what's going on, and that's going to give all the people in the community this voice in what's happening. Not that they're going to tell you how to run your nonprofit or run your business, right? But they have a voice and they feel ownership inside of it, right? So they have a reason to be there, so that when you ask, jump or how give or whatever, they're doing that. They're doing that because they're part of that group, and there's accountability for what it is they believe in. Ultimately, I believe we all all of our actions are based on a desire to accomplish, fix, or avoid something. And community is much the same way. It brings it into, I'm part of this community to avoid being out here by myself, to fix the idea of whatever the mission's out to fix, or to accomplish the overall mission of the organization. I'm in this community for a reason. How engaged I am is going to vary dramatically on personality and style and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have to be in every single meeting to be an engaged member of a community, right? My wife would never be in those, right? But she wants to be part of it. She just wants to sit on the edge, maybe point fingers a little bit. But where I want to be, right in the middle, glad handing, shaking hands, kissing baby, stealing lollipops, right? She's on that outside. And it's not that I'm more in the community than she is, by no means. She probably sees things I would never see because she's standing back and having a different view of it. So community is very much the accountability that we can bring, which actually makes them raving fans of who it is we are and what it is we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my 2 cents on this is, I think for-profits and non-for-profits both appear to encounter similar issues with community, where on one side they want to create their own community and they want to control it and be able to know what's going on and filter and do whatever they want to do because they've created it. On the other side, the people who are fans, were fans, will be fans, create their own community. And they create it however they want to create it, outside of the realm of the not-for-profit or for-profit organization. And there's very little insight that organization has into these ad hoc communities. And that's a huge challenge. There's very few monitoring tools out there that can monitor these communities because they're closed, they're invite only, or there's a bouncer at the front door just to make sure like you don't work for the organization or whatever it is. They're all over the place. They're on apps, they're on closed Facebook groups, they're closed LinkedIn groups, they're WhatsApp groups, email lists, whatever. We even like just people at church meetings or whatever it is, like talking about whatever it is outside of the ears of whoever's running it. And I think that organizations have to be aware that this is going on, and there's nothing they can do about it. Their only reaction should be, how do we make things better? What are the conversations going on? How do we bring them back into the fold, gently, kindly, nicely, respectfully, and understand what are the issues? How do we address those issues? How do we take the actual, like, real issues and put a number on it? Is this a 10 or is this a 5? And then create an action plan. How do we fix it? Or if it's just a complaint and like, all right, someone doesn't like the color of the wallpaper, like whatever it is, like, okay, this is someone's opinion, put in a basket. So sorry you didn't like the color that we chose to repaint the building. Like, next time we consult you and you can write the check and you choose whatever color you like, but move on. And I think that's probably the best way to do it. Like, I'm part of a Facebook community for one of my credit cards, and it's just fascinating seeing the conversation going on, and it's completely outside the purview of the credit card company and whatever benefactor of that credit card bonus system is there. And they have no clue that people are happy or annoyed with the credit card company and the benefactor because they changed the terms. And this goes on all the time, and that's just one organization. I mean, you brought up Starbucks earlier. They just changed their terms of their reward system a couple months ago, and people all up in arms. And there's a lot of private communities there going on about what's going on and how are they going to change it and where people moving to. And that changes the whole conversation, what's going on there. Go ahead, Sean.
But what you touched on something really important is that everyone's being yenta in all these different groups, but what's the why are they part of this community? What's the commonality that got them there? Is the Starbucks rewards cards, or the credit card rewards cards, or the love of saving the whales and being part. Even though I always say people like to live in these organizations, people like to live vicariously through the organization without having to be on the beach saving the whales. So all these Facebook communities and now all these school communities and all these, like, everyone's into like these little community platforms. I mean, the commonality is you're all there because at some point we're all connecting based on the brand, based on the organization, based on X, Y, and Z, and then you can go off and yenta however you want. But at the end of the day, that's why we're all there, and that's why community is so important. Because at the end of the day, at the core of it, we all coming together for the commonality to support the organization.
Great conversation, gentlemen. I'm hesitant to introduce one final thing, but you know what? We're going to do it, and it's because for the nonprofits or any business in general, it's important that you fully understand the downside of partnerships just as well as the upsides. So I'll share a story. I won't mention names, but I have someone that I'm working with, and they wanted to partner with another organization that is big in their industry. Here's the problem. That organization has a huge issue with their brand. They're in hot water. Okay. And so the people I'm dealing with, they were like, this is our opportunity to to partner with them and help lift them out. And I go, that's noble. I go, but here's my issue with that. They're in the toilet right now. It's not that you're going to bring them out. They could bring you in. So you have to be careful with that. And I go, I would prefer you postpone this opportunity until they do more damage control of their brand, because it's not the people that know you that will go, oh, I get what you're trying to do for that brand. It's the people who don't know you, and hate them and will immediately hate you. So I don't know if anybody wants to add to that, but understand this is the importance of doing your homework. I did, when they brought it to me, I did my homework and go, no, you cannot partner with them yet. I understand what it is, but no. Chris.
Yeah, kryptonite's kryptonite. Like, stay away. This is a bigger discussion there, Jimmy. This is not like a 30
I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm like, let's end on that note, because partnerships are great, but they require so much of you.
And it's important to note that partnerships live forever, well beyond the partnership. So if X and Y partner, and 5 years later X or Y screw up, that partnership is still in the spotlight, even though you haven't done anything in 5 years. So just know going into it that once you're co-branded for eternity. It just doesn't matter. Even those who break up with their loved one, their favorite organization, because of, they support blood diamonds, or they went hunting for lions or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? That you will always be in someone's eyes aligned. So that is a huge downside. There are ways to around it. I would love to have that conversation one day and talk about some of these things. But you're absolutely right. It is very, very hard not to be perceived as negative whenever you're going into that, even with a white knight mentality.
Absolutely. Okay. Let me go ahead and close this out. First of all, thank you again, gentlemen, for being amazing with your time and your knowledge. Everyone, I hope you appreciate that. I appreciated having the conversation and being blessed to be in the presence of you three. Let's start with any final recommendations, for our viewers, for our listeners. What is one thing you want them to take away from today?
Get started. Align what you want, understand what a partnership is, and take the first steps. Jimmy lined out very clearly some great first steps. If you need Sean's advice of what is our why first, do that. Take that first step, move towards it, because otherwise it will never get done, because it seems insurmountable if you haven't done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that just, again, understanding who you are, what you're all about, knowing who you're getting in bed with and why they're and what they bring to the table in order to make sure that everything works properly. And once you understand these things and you're on the same level and page foundationally, then you can engage.
Okay, Matthew?
Yeah, don't go after the shiny object in the room. Make sure you're not chasing free baseball tickets or golf tickets or hot ice cream, because it just doesn't work.
All right, then. All right, so if anyone is interested, they want to connect with any one of us, on the replay page, you scroll down, you hit this section here. You'll see all these lovely gentlemen here with their lovely headshots from Vogue magazine, because that's where I pulled them from. And you can book time with any of us if you want to have a deeper conversation. We're here to support. We're here to help. So with that being said, thank you again, gentlemen. Thank you for all that are watching these sessions. And we'll see you next week where we talk about innovation for good. So this will be the third part in our series. And we're hoping not only you find this valuable, but you are taking action on this stuff. Just like Chris said, don't just sit there. You got to get involved. Get that toe in the water. On behalf of myself, Matthew, Chris, and Sean, we thank you again, and we'll see you in session 3.